The Catholic Church is facing repeated calls to take more responsibility for its role in Canada's residential school crisis.
Release all records from the church, release all records from the federal government. Those are our records. It's not your records. And for the Pope to continue to deny the apology at a residential school site, that in itself is an act of ignorance.
The Catholic Order of the Missionary Oblates of Mary Immaculate ran both schools where possible remains and unmarked graves have been found in recent weeks. The group says they're committing to releasing more documents. Father Ken Thorson is the provincial superior for the Missionary Oblates of Mary Immaculate. He's in Ottawa. Father Ken Thorson, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, David. Good to be with you.
I'm wondering if I can start with an update on the document disclosure that residential school survivors and others have asked for. What exactly have you turned over to this point to the groups in Kamloops and in Cowessess?
Well, in Kamloops and in Cowessess, we have I'll start with Kamloops. The work there is in partnership with the Royal Museum, is focused on the Codex Historicus and digitizing and making available in a usable format, in an accessible format, the Codex Historicus, the daily diary of the Oblate communities that may contain helpful information for the work that's going on in Kamloops. It's early days in responding to the Cowessess recent disclosure, and so what we've done up to this point is I have sent inquiries, questions to our archives regarding the allegation of removal of headstones. And we've begun the process of looking at which codices contained in our archives, where the codices are contained in our archives, and as soon as possible, we'll begin the digitization process with those documents.
So what would the timeline be? I appreciate that this is a significant process because these records are historic, they're quite old, they need to be handled delicately, so you can't just take them and run them through a photocopier type thing. But you can understand there's an urgency of the moment and an impatience to get the documents as quickly as possible. So does everything have to be done before you can turn it over, or can you start turning it over in chunks? Like, when can they expect to see something?
Well, that's a question. Unfortunately, I don't know the answer to that question today. The Cowessess disclosure just came a few days ago, and up until this point, we've been working with the Kamloops documents with the Royal Museum, and then we're just beginning the process of bringing the codices together that might relate to the questions that are coming out of Cowessess. And so beyond that, David, at this point, I can't say what the timeline would be. We're still waiting for a timeline from the archives at the Royal Museum. But I can say that work has begun in Kamloops, and we've discovered that there is significant digitization that has already been carried out at our archive in Richelieu, and we're getting a picture in the coming days of what documents have already been digitized, which may be helpful to the people of Cowessess First Nation.
But are we talking weeks? Are we talking months? Or are we potentially talking years? Like, because I don't even have a sense, and I don't know if anyone has a sense of the sheer volume of documents that you might have in the possession of your order.
Yeah, we're talking. We're talking at least. I'm sure it's at least somewhere in the neighborhood of, 3 to 6 months, maybe longer. but again, if I say more than that, I'm guessing, and I don't want to do that. I don't think that's fair to the people who are looking for the information. So once we have that information, we'll certainly share it as soon as we have it.
So Kamloops and Cowessess weren't the only institutions that your order was in charge of. So in anticipation of there likely being other similar requests of this kind,
right.
Will you start the process proactively in other archival areas and in other institutions and start that digitization and gathering of documents before they're asked for?
Yes, David, that's what we're working towards right now, is to put a plan in place and to begin that digitization process. And to begin that in each of the archives where codices relevant to residential schools would be housed.
You know, I wonder though.
But as you said before, there's we're talking about hundreds and hundreds of volumes.
But I wonder though, Father Thorson, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission came out in 2015. Why are we only at this point in 2021?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a fair question, David. I wish we were further ahead. I wish the digitization process had continued. The codices were available to the processes of the TRC, to the information gathering processes of the TRC. My understanding is that the processes came to a halt due to the question of funding from the federal government, and that's where it stalled. I wish it hadn't. I wish that we had continued it, but we didn't. And I can't say any more than I wish we had, and we're committed to doing that work now.
Well, there seems to be no lack of federal support for alacrity and clarity now, and to speed this up. I mean, if you need money or extra personnel, I think you might find a willing partner in the federal government and maybe some provincial governments to get this, make this process more speedier. I mean, have you asked them for it? Will you ask them for this now?
We haven't asked them for it yet, but that is certainly something that we would be willing to have a conversation about if the federal or the provincial government are willing to assist us in this to make it happen more quickly. That's really our main concern, is that the information get to the people who need it for their investigations as quickly as possible.
One final question, if I can. In light of the events in Cowessess, you said that you're seeking further guidance and instruction from expert organizations. What exactly are you hoping to seek more clarity on?
Well, one of the, as we've been talking about, the work on the codices has begun, and the other category of document where there are questions is the personnel files of members who worked at residential schools, and privacy legislation has always been a way to maintain the privacy expectations of our members. But of course, our main concern now is the truth and ensuring adequate and responsible access to the history that may be contained, at least in part, in those personnel files. And so that's the help that we're looking for, seeking guidance from experts. We'll also consult with Indigenous communities and others who can, as you were saying earlier, perhaps privacy commissioners at the federal and provincial level, to help us find the way forward, so that the information, or so that access to all the information that will be helpful in the search for truth is possible.
So you're seeking a way, just to make sure I don't misunderstand, to allow for further disclosure, to find a way to allow for even further access to personnel files in the Hunt for Truth.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Like I say, it may well be true that there is information that will be helpful to the Indigenous community's search for truth, especially around, I mean, right now the urgency is around burial and death records. And if information that is relevant to that work is in the personnel files of Oblates who worked at the schools, then of course we want to find a way to make that available to the Indigenous communities. And so that's why we're looking for guidance.
Okay. Father Ken Thorson, thanks so much for your time.
Okay, David. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.